teacher, a bank employee, a labourer, an actor. These are just some of the civilians that have been slaughtered in Jammu and Kashmir over just the last 150 days. The shocking attacks have seen Kashmiri Pandits, those from other states, and local Muslim civilians at the receiving end. Clearly, terror has reared its ugly head in the valley once again. The impunity and the scale of attacks has been growing, causing a sense of fear among residents. Kashmiri Pandits have been agitating over the last several days, saying that they need to be protected or they will begin to leave once again. The fact that Jammu and Kashmir, now a union territory since nearly 3 years, is under the central government's control has led to an all-out political fight, with opposition leaders and Kashmiri politicians asking what really was achieved by abrogating Article 370. In the latest, Home Minister Amit Shah held a series of high-level meetings taking stock of the situation. Security has been tightened, but the sense of fear prevails. Unfortunately, killings in Jammu and Kashmir are not new. In 2019, 39 killings took place, civilian killings. As per data from the Ministry of Home Affairs, the number was 37 in 2020 and 36 in 2021. Just in the first 5 months of this year, we've seen 18 killings. Of these, 10 were Muslims and 8 were non-Muslims. The common thread, if any, is that the Kashmiri Muslim civilians seem to have affiliations with the Indian state in one way or the other. The big questions are, why now? Why nearly 3 years after abrogation of Article 370 and some semblance of normalcy in Kashmir are we seeing these killings? What is emboldening terrorists at this point when there has been no visible relaxation in security measures over the last few months? And the biggest question of all, why is an area that has such heavy military presence, such tight security, and is such a high priority for the central government seeing terrorists kill people with such impunity? To speak more on this, I'm joined today by Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain, and a defense analyst, and Dr. Surinder, Kaul, co-founder of the GKPD and a well-known author. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today on Beyond the Headline. Mr. Hasnain, let me come to you first with your assessment on some of the questions that we've posed today. And the idea over here is to explain to people what really is going on. The biggest question, of course, is why now?
Thank you, Tamanna. Thank you for inviting me to your show. And yes, this is a very important discussion that we are about to embark upon. Why now? 5th of August 2019 was the time when the decision was taken. The state came down hard, that is, the center came down hard on terrorists, on separatists, on all stakeholders who had something to do with separatism at that particular time. As a result of which, turbulence in the streets reduced, terror started taking a back step. We had last year 182 terrorists killed. The number of terrorist incidents started climbing down. Pakistan was forced into a ceasefire on the line of control. It came under FATF restrictions, FATF investigations, and as a result of which, last 3 years, given the fact that 2 years went into the COVID pandemic too, things were stabilizing. Now, when you achieve success of this type, you should never think that you have reached the last mile and you are about to step across to final victory. A pushback by your adversary will take place. And this is exactly what you are witnessing at the moment, a pushback. This has been a characteristic, a dynamic characteristic of this proxy conflict for the last 30 years. Every time we have succeeded, a pushback has always come from the other side. Now, the pushback is normally characterized by something different, something new. This time it's all about not hardcore terrorists, but quasi-terrorists, what are being sometimes being referred as hybrid terrorists, young boys on motorcycles, not AK-47 laden on their backs, but just single pistols with a single magazine and maybe 5 rounds. So nondescript, easy to hide, not revealing themselves in any way. This is the way they've decided to hit back. Not going for mass killings. It's not like Chitti Singhpura, 36 Sikhs being killed at that particular time. It is ones and twos every second, third, or fourth day. This is a new strategy to make themselves relevant all over again. Now, obviously, the state has to push back against this. This is what is being attempted at the moment. It's not likely to succeed immediately. It will take a little time to succeed. But it has got two dimensions which the public must understand. There's a security dimension. The security forces will do everything within their powers to try and make sure that they succeed and prevent these things happening. Secondly, there is a political domain. There's a political domain, a people's domain. Unless the Kashmiri Muslims take ownership of the safety of the minorities in the Kashmir Valley, we are not likely to see too much of success.
Yes, but you talk about safety of the minorities. We've been talking a lot about the Kashmiri Pandits because they are saying now they want to migrate again. We've given you the figures. Out of the 18 civilians, you've had minorities, you've had Kashmiri Pandits, you've also had Muslim civilians who have been targeted. Dr. Surinder Kaul, how do you look at it? Is the message that is being which is being sent that minorities are going to be targeted, anyone affiliated with the state is going to be targeted? What do you think is the chilling message here?
First of all, thanks so much, Tamanna, for inviting me. Let me start from this, that the generation of genocide of the Kashmiri
Dr. Kaul,
Hindus
unfortunately, we don't have a clear line with you, and I cannot hear what you're saying. So I'm going to request my team to patch you back so we can hear what you're saying very clearly. That's a bit of a patchy line. Let me, meanwhile, go across to my colleague Ishan Wani. He is reporting from Srinagar and has been tracking the story very, very closely while we get that line patched. Ishan, can you tell me what the latest is? We have seen over here that groups, especially Kashmiri Pandit groups, have been saying that we're just going to leave because we don't feel safe. Have those migrations begun, or have the local authorities managed to tell them that they will be safe and assuage some of their concerns?
Well, as of now, these Kashmiri Pandits are not convinced by the government's assurances. One, primarily because, every time assurance has been provided, there have been attacks that have unfolded. And that is why there's been a bit of shake in the confidence when you talk about Kashmiri Pandits, particularly those who have migrated to Kashmir to work, particularly after they were given this PM's package and they were brought to work here. Most of them don't have, living accommodations under secure condition, and they're living in rented accommodation. That has added more to that fear. And now, since the government has decided to shift them, they are saying that they are ready for everything, but not at the cost of their life. And that is why the government's promises have failed in a way that every time these promises have been made, somebody has been killed, somebody has been injured. And that is what is adding to the worries of the administration. Now, in ones and twos, in small numbers, small batches, Kashmiri Pandits have started moving out of Kashmir Valley. From a couple of days, we're seeing and getting reports that during the morning time or during the evening time, they are trying to go out. Though we saw at several places and several locations, the restrictions that the government had already imposed on them from yesterday were removed. And that is why now it's a difficult situation, not only for the government, but also for the Kashmiri Pandits, who are not only looking for their survival, but also looking at their families.
Ishan, Kashmiri Pandits, of course, have been targeted. Those who are minorities and from outside the state have also been targeted, and so have Muslim civilians. Can you give us an update on what has changed in the last few days in terms of security? And are things back to normal? For example, are tourists still coming in, or is there a sense of tightened security and heightened security on the streets of Srinagar?
Well, yes, definitely security arrangements have been made more stricter. Tourists are coming as normal. There hasn't been any decline so far in the number of tourists coming to Kashmir Valley. But there are several security measures. One, Kashmiri Pandits who were transferred to far-off places have now been transferred to, district headquarters. Essentially means that within the vicinity of more secure zones, these Kashmiri Pandits are being transferred. The orders are still coming out. They are being shifted to these places which are considered to be more secure than where they are. And one way is that. Second is that there has been an increase in the security arrangements that were done at the colonies, and shifting of them from rented accommodation to the guarded colonies means that there is more security for them. But what the question they are asking is that they have to go about their normal lives. They have to step out of these colonies and houses. So the government will have to provide security there. It's essential for them because every person has to move out of their house to go to work, to go to job, to do daily routine work. So that is where Kashmiri Pandits are asking question that there's a need of a larger security. The security should be based on, in the society. And that is why, they want to go to Jammu. The transfer should be made to Jammu and they will feel secure there. But the government, on the other hand, is not ready to transfer them to Jammu, primarily because the government has been talking about bringing back Kashmiri Pandits and Hindus and resettling them in Kashmir Valley. And if, these Kashmiri Pandits who are already resettled talk about going to Jammu because of environment not being secure,
Right.
That is important. That will put government on a very back foot. And that is why the government hasn't taken any policy decision of shifting them to Jammu.
All right, thank you for that. Ishan Wani there reporting live from Srinagar. Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain, you heard that report. Security will be tightened, and I'm sure that there will be an attempt to hunt down these terrorists. But the question is, why has this been allowed to happen? It's not like security was eased in the last few days. And why has this moment been chosen?
Hey, Tamanna, first of all, let's get it very clear. No one allows something to happen. The security forces on their own have not allowed this to happen. It is that your enemy, your adversary, has tried to outsmart you, and initially he has perhaps succeeded to some extent. In the sense that I already explained to you, a complete change in strategy, a change in basic ground tactics. The AK-47, as I explained, was always the weapon of the terrorist. It's no longer the weapon of the terrorist. The pistol has become the weapon of the terrorist. It's very difficult to be able to find out a movement of a single Kashmiri youth on a motorcycle with a pistol. He can go past checkpoints, he can go past all kinds of guards and sentries in a very nondescript way. So it's a challenge, all right. Of course, the security forces are going to bounce back. Lots of efforts will have to take place on that. Intelligence will have to be redoubled. More patrolling, more domination, all these things will have to be done. This is not the first time we are experiencing this. I was there very much when the killing of Sikhs started. The Sikh minority took place in the year 2000. Lots of them, and lots of Sikhs wanted to move away from the valley at that time. We had to go in and convince them to stay back because the state needs them. The nation needs them. We can't allow the adversary on the other
General
side.
Hasnain, but sir, at this point, when all of these people are saying we're feeling unsafe and you're saying that the state needs them, will ask them to stay back, why should they stay back?
I agree with you.
Why should they risk their life to prove a larger point?
I agree with you entirely. They should not stay back. They should move out because in a democracy, you have the freedom to move wherever you wish to. It's only that the government can appeal to them and hopefully the government can demonstrate. The security forces should need to demonstrate in the next few days that actually the minorities are safe and secure in the Kashmir Valley, which is what I said. You have to redouble your intelligence. You have to redouble your patrolling and your domination of these areas. You have to move them into clusters. At the moment, the minority, the Hindus particularly, are living all over the valley in rented accommodation and that kind. Obviously, the jobs which they have been given are very dear to them. They want to hold on to their jobs, but there's not enough space available in most of the encampments which have been set up for the Kashmiri Pandits. I was the corps commander when the first such encampment was set up in 2011. And I know very well that there are not too many of them. You need many more, perhaps. If nothing else, you need to move them into some kind of an accommodation in which local police, army, or anyone needs to patrol and dominate that area to prevent these kind of things happening all over again. But may I add to that, the last word?
Yes.
It is not just the security forces. This is not just the security forces. This entire environment of security is not created only by the security forces. It is as much the people's responsibility. It is the responsibility of the political community. So therefore, everyone has to work together to achieve that kind of security.
But who are you referring to, sir? The political community, as in the earlier political parties in Kashmir, are now effectively redundant. You have also Kashmiri Muslim civilians being targeted and killed. So now who exactly are these people and who is going to come in and try and build that non-security bridge? You know, that political bridge. Who exactly is that now?
First of all, the killing of Kashmiri Muslims, it must be remembered, these are the people who are generally opposed to the policies which Pakistan wants to achieve in Kashmir, number one. Number two, these are the people who are working against all the diktats of political Islam. For example, the television actress who was killed. This is the kind of thing which none of the political Islam people want that to flourish in the valley as such. Who is to provide the security? Finally, it's the security forces of India, which have to provide the security. As I said, jointly, this is a responsibility of all of us. It cannot just rest on the shoulders of the security forces, because this kind of a war, proxy war that we are seeing in the valley is not a conventional war. It's a war of proxy, it's a war of terror in which the political, the social, the economic, and the security domain all play their roles. And you cannot expect only the security forces to do this.
That whatever the strategy has been in the last 3 years and the semblance of normalcy, I can say this from the point of view because I went to Srinagar as a tourist, say in the month of April, and it was packed. Dal Lake was packed. There were a lot of tourists there. Everything seemed fine. Now you are seeing just days later, this whole scenario which is causing a scare. Would you call this an intelligence failure, a governance failure, a security failure, or just a change in tactic which the establishment was not ready for?
The last one, what you just said. The change of tactics for which we did not perhaps anticipate early enough. It's not easy to anticipate in this kind of a war, just remember. There are no rules, and this is a war without rules. If we could anticipate this kind of a thing, actions would always be taken. No, it's been the better part of the last month. In fact, if you really look at it, it's been since October that the targeted killings started. That's the first time after the Afghan conflict had ended. The first actions post-Afghanistan which Pakistan undertook were the targeted killings of minorities in the Kashmir Valley in the month of October last year. Then there was a slight break in the winter. And you found a little bit of a scare of COVID coming back and things like that. And then the whole thing started all over again around the end of March, early April. So yes, over a period of time, this has been building up. And we need to tighten up our intelligence. We need to tighten up our overall security norms. There's no doubt about it. But as I said, in this kind of a warfare, which is played without rules, you will find that there will be ups and downs of this kind which will take place.
All right.
It's a very short time in which I'm sure we will be up over the situation.
Okay. Dr. Surinder Kaul, I hope you can hear us now and we have your line back. We've wanted a clear line so that we can actually hear what you say. The last thing, I don't know if you heard that Lieutenant General Hasnain said, is that we will be back. This is a blip of what has happened. It's a new tactic that now security forces will work to overcome. Do you think the Kashmiri Pandit community feels that solace right now? What is the mood there?
So again, sorry about the glitch. Thank you, Tamanna, for inviting me in your show. I would like to say that the Kashmiri Hindu Pandit genocide continues till date. And this selected killings is again the same deja vu for us that started in 1988, 89, 90. And selected killing because of our faith. Now, the issue is the first right that any individual that supersedes any of the fundamental right is the right to live, right to life. Now, under the current scenario, the way the minorities are, I think they have become a sacrificial lambs. And whatever security is there, there is a stark similarity between 1990 in way that the stakeholders in this duty of J&K, especially the political stream of the valley, they are as venomous and rabid as they were in 1990s. They are becoming so toxic, and they are not displaying their statesmanship and trying to help in this situation.
Who are you referring to, sir? When you're saying rabid and toxic, who are you referring to?
I'm referring to whether it is National Conference, whether it is PDP, whether it is any of the politicians from the valley.
But they've been
They
made
are
redundant,
making
Dr. Kaul. They don't matter.
Excuse me?
They've been made redundant. After the abrogation of 370, they've been made redundant politically.
See, Article 370 was a very historic decision. That is absolutely, we commend the government of India for doing that. But the reality on the ground, the players are the same. So Article 370 is just an abrogation, but there are a lot of semantics on the ground, and these proxies which are there are more radicalized than they were in 1990s. And the mainstream politicians who have been making these statements, venomous statements, why don't they do something and bring on the people and tell them this is absolutely wrong? Killing of the human beings, whether they are Hindu, Muslim, this is absolutely wrong.
Of course.
Let us all come together and do something. Are they doing that? No.
But
When
does the
all
responsibility
minorities in
primarily
India
lie
have all
with
the
them, Dr.
privileges?
Kaul? As you mentioned very correctly, and we've run those statistics in the beginning of the show, out of the 18 civilians that have been killed, 10 were Muslim, 8 were Hindu, including Kashmiri Pandits and those from outside the state. The target is very clear because even the Muslim civilians are associated in some way or the other with the state. There's a sarpanch, the brother of a police officer, etc. Who is responsible for securing these people?
I don't deny that yes, Muslims have been also becoming victims of this brutality. But everybody needs to understand one thing: a minuscule community, if one person is killed, that is equivalent to hundreds of killings. If our percentage goes and the percentage of the killings of the minorities, especially the Kashmiri Hindu Pandits, is significantly much larger than the killings of Muslims, even though every killing is detrimental and it shocks us. But the way it is being portrayed, itne Hindu mare, itne Musalman bhi to mare, that is basically a denial. They are in denial. They are actually, by these statements, they are just making things worse. Things needs to stop. Actually, this is an opportunity for Kashmiris because they are the people who are being stained. As spiritual people, spiritual land is being stained. They have to come out and they have to, in one voice, condemn the way they were just coming on the streets under the pressure of separatists.
You know, I agree with you on one point, Dr. Kaul. We should not count the religion of those who are being killed. We should not count the religion of those who are being killed. The fact is that civilians are being killed, human beings are being killed. Now, unfortunately, the message that seems to be, the aim that seems to be there is to cause a sense of fear and panic. Is the community feeling reassured with the action or the promises that are being made right now? And do you hold the current dispensation responsible for your security?
See, this is in continuity of a flawed draconian law that was in 2010 that the Kashmiri Pandits were exploited because they were getting overaged, they didn't have jobs. They were pushed into this whole game plan of becoming sacrificial goats because they had nothing to fend for themselves. The PM package was flawed. The least we want is the intervention of the current establishment to have a review of this whole package. And this is basically whatever good things they will be doing or they are attempting to do. These incidents are making a big issue it's staining them as well. So they have to first secure any minority, any life. That to the extent possible they can do. It is a security issue and everybody has to have a sense of security right now. And that supersedes any of the fundamental rights. So that is of prime importance right now.
Absolutely.
We are also waiting for the actions that government will be taking under this situation.
We're not even talking about the impact this is having on the economy of this union territory, on the tourism that was returning, on the daily lives of people who are living there, and on the broader sort of security strategy. Just last word from you, Lieutenant General Hasnain, on what do you think should be done next? Is your view that the only way to deal with this is clamping down further in terms of security?
No, I'm the last one who will ever recommend anything in terms of securitization. Yes, an improvement in security, absolutely a must. As I said, those 4 or 5 points You have to have improved intelligence. You have to have greater domination, even if you have to induct some additional companies of the Central Armed Police Forces or whatever it is. But yes, a message must go out and assurance must be given to the minorities and all others who have been the victims of this of these various activities. But that said, I would definitely like a little more ownership taken of the security of their neighbors by the Kashmiri Muslim community. You see, and for that, this must come from within. The unfortunate thing is there is no political community in Kashmir at the moment. The political space is absolutely bereft. So as a result, there's no leadership. And therefore, something has to come on a voluntary basis from within, where people come out and say, the Kashmiri Pandits are our people. The minorities are our people. They are Kashmiris. We have to protect them.
So are you saying, let me just understand that a little better, sir. Are you saying that the vacuum, so one of the fallouts of the abrogation of Article 370 and, you know, what has happened next is also a political vacuum that you're talking about. And Dr. Kaul also spoke about what are NC-PDP doing. And that's my point. Do they even matter? Does anyone even listen to them anymore? So is that a vacuum that needs to be filled?
Absolutely, there is a vacuum. And this was expected.
I believe
just 1 second, Dr. Kaul, just 1 second. This vacuum was expected because, you know, it was a hard decision taken at that time and a political cleavage which took place in the valley. And the government has been working towards a process, an electoral process, which will probably in the next 1 year or so materialize. But in this intervening period, this interim period, you find that there is a vacuum, and this vacuum is actually causing a lot of harm to the state. Okay,
yes, Dr. Kaul, just your quick point on that before I wrap.
Yes, I think the onus of this whole thing remains on the leadership in the valley. They need to stand up. They need to become statesmen. They need to go and tell their neighbors and people openly.
So, but that's what we're saying. There is no leadership in the valley. Is that the problem? That there is no leadership?
No, but they have to make an attempt. They have been a leader. They have been ruling this youth state for 70 years together. Why we are saying that? Yes, they have their own people. Why can't they start the thing from their own people and send the right message to all the citizens of the UT? That is of paramount importance. Are they doing it? No. But what they say, yet these things are happening because of the Kashmir files. What laughable statements are you making? It looks like that there has been complete intellectual bankruptcy.
You know, the big question to ask, absolutely, I got your point, sir. I got your point. The big question to ask is, if you're talking about the PDP and the NC, do they have any heft left in the valley politically among Kashmiri Muslims? Will anyone even listen to them today? That's
sorry, Tamanna, sorry. I will not agree with you on that. The political space is very much available to them if they wish to. If they wish to come in.
So you're saying they should come in and act like statesmen right now.
Exactly.
Well, we have to see a solution very quickly.
Saying, and I agree with him.
Yeah, we have to see a solution very quickly. Thank you for joining us and helping us break down what exactly is happening on what is a very, very important story.